Thousands of years ago, on the night of All Hallows' Eve, or Night of the Dead, which we now call Halloween, the pagan festival of Samhain was celebrated. And Samhain signifies the close of the harvest, when the culture itself was shifting from the activities of farming to winter's fallow. It was and is the pagan New Year, a time of preparation and waiting for the earth to quiet herself and renew beneath the soil, a time of anticipation of the return of light. It was and is a day of remembrance for those who have died. All Hallows' Eve was a holy day. It was not a secular time of revelry that has become Halloween. The festival of Samhain spread all over Europe. And the church, of course, being the church, realized that it needed a holiday to co-opt that one. But it took them 7 centuries, so it was in the 7th century that the Christian church started celebrating All Saints' Day on November 1st. That day was a time not only to remember the dead, but to pray for help and guidance in this world from the saints who had gone on ahead. In Mexico, All Saints' Day celebrates the lives of infants and children who have died. On November 2nd, All Souls' Day, it observes and honors and remembers the adults who have died. The celebration of the Day of the Dead is a joyful one. It is believed that the saints will actually visit their former homes, so altars are created, incense lit, candles burned to guide the way home for that ancestor for a visit. Their favorite foods are laid out on the altar. Marigold wreaths are created and laid on grave sites. Edible skeletons and skulls and coffins appear, as does the special pan de muerto, bread of the dead, to be offered to the returning spirits. Families will often picnic at the grave sites of the departed. The living and the dead frolic together. It is good to speak of the dead, to utter their names. Sometimes when we speak their name, we are calling upon the dead for help, wisdom, or guidance. Sometimes we speak their name with remorse and regret because there were things left unsaid or undone, something left unfinished that can never be finished, never moved toward closure. Those are haunting times. Sometimes when we speak their name, we do so with anger and even rage and grief because we are so wounded by their absence or by having been left to mourn with no map, no seeming end to our pain. Sometimes we speak their name in tears of fondness and gratitude. Sometimes we speak their name to let go of their hold upon our hearts, that we may move forward and carry on. Sometimes we speak their name with utter relief that who they were in their living no longer holds us in their death. Sometimes we speak their name unconsciously. Sometimes we speak their name in peace. This morning, once again, I invite you to write down the names of the dead who you have loved, those who have been lost to you, those who are your saints, those who have guided you, imparted their wisdom, those who still guide you and grant you wisdom, those who have impacted your life while they were living, those who you have had to let go of in death, those who you still hold close to you in death, ordinary people, extraordinary people, saints, sinners, heroes and sheroes, those who are inspirations, those whom you wish to honor, those whom you wish to share, those whom you wish to let go of, those whom you wish to call upon, those whom you wish to remember. The papers will be collected by the ushers. They will be brought forward, and Robin and I will be reading aloud the names of your saints. And I apologize in advance for any mispronunciations of any of the names that we read. Judy.
Jack Sims.
George Milne.
Ellie Mae, daughter to Molly Mae and sister to Charlie and Hawkeye.
Late wife Karen Olson.
Ivy Kelsey.
Iraj, my husband.
Marty Keltner, one with fun. Ebony, spook.
Kathleen and Charles Walker.
Edith Hilton, it will all work out.
Guadalupe.
Mary Whitney.
Jack Turner.
Winston Maxwell.
Janine Miller.
Eric Albrecht.
Luke Rene. Grandmere Jan.
Mary Fellnell. Nola Weston. Robert Burns. Willetta Burns. Wayne Farrell.
O. F. Nils Andrus. James Nils Andrus.
Gordon Snow. Buford Thurman.
Linda Michaels. Abby E. Michaels.
Kyle Darmany.
Catherine Wagner.
Granny Maytai. Mom and Dad.
Carol Ann Whitney Hill. Norman John Hill. Jim Beatty. Henry Alfred Stein. Harlan Elligan. Sean O'Neill.
Marianne Kasevich.
My two grandmothers, Nanny Annie Reynolds, Mema Nina Haslam.
My brothers, Tom and Jerry.
Ed Simmons.
Carrie, John, John Jr., Harley, Martha, Bob, Joe, etc.
Ruth Ross. David Gilmartin.
Joseph Pimento, steadfast friend and colleague.
Tane Walmsley. Brett Anderson.
Alexander D. Legrand, firstborn son.
Steve Shaw. Tom Howie. Ron Kowalski. Bob and Ann Maddock.
Catherine Whitford, mentor and friend.
Robert J. Langford, Dad.
Ruth Ross, Grace Palmer.
Mim, Mom, Paul, Barbara, Baby.
Karen, Angelita, Rob.
Kay, Catherine, Edward.
Pat Lupoff.
Joe Bells, Lorraine Bells.
Rod Utterback, Grandpa Lee.
Mary Jane Pierce Snyder, Leslie Brocklebank.
Darlene Wallace, Eunice Wallace, Tamara Flores, Brian Flores.
Nanelle Milner Armistead.
Susan Hodgkin, Leo Hodgkin, Zachary Zakron, Arthur Sharp, Sally Voles, George Sharp, Charles Penhallow.
Cutie Pie, Bosco Tio.
Catherine Crow.
Lillian Thomas, my mother. Mary Jane Garvin, my college roommate.
Helen Gustine.
Deborah Miller. Beverly Gilpin. Ted Harriet. Candy Cole.
Megan Crow.
Jean Danler. Eve McConnelly. Reinhardt. Margie Bentley. Donna Zellner. Peter Mazza. Liz Scoff. Elizabeth Danning.
Margaret Koenig, Oscar Koenig.
Grandpa King, Grandma King. My father, Neil Patrick Olson, who died at the age of 32.
Eve McConaughey, Phil Winter, Cindy Pitcairn, Kathy Neely, Doris Johansson, Anita Rowson, Zayla Watts Dillon, William Dillon, Richard Dillon, Dorothy Wagner Dillon, Maybelle Thomas Dillon, Jocelyn Logan, Peggy Stahl, Vera Watts Webster, Mamie Watts, Everett Watts, Don Watts, Dick Johnson, Dorothy Stahl, Myron Stahl, Marilyn Junkins.
My father, Tom O'Donnell.
Donnie Bohr, Grandma Cove.
Edward Griswold, Lemuel Evans, Michael Gomez.
Darlene Wallace, Tamara Floms, Kodak Woolmore.
My grandmother, Lena Hemphil, Nora Springs, Iowa, Joyce.
Blaine Spry.
Grandfather Morton Peterson, great-grandmother Gladys Handy, great-great-aunt Avanel Larson, Abraham Lincoln, Otto Effinger, Mace Earbert.
Anita.
Métis Preble, Matt Preble, Ted Preble, Kate Murphy, Bob Gioa, Mary Jensen, Diane Hawks.
Jim Ellison, Janet and Ed Lamberts, Vern Ho.
Robert Roden, Barbara Roden.
Ruth Ann Egbert, Dee Wilcox.
Heather Avero, Daryl Smith, Mama Makey, Judy South.
Ann Pasco, Sister of My Heart. Carol Armstrong, beloved Eugene friend. Herman Johnson, beloved father.
Rhoda Cross.
Chris Hohensmer.
Daddy Jim.
Edith Weber, Dorothy Hill, Bandit.
Tippy Tai Tai, Jake.
Martha Mellors, Barkemeyer. Helen Lund Reinhardt, Dorothy Wright Davis.
Tom.
Matthew Bennett.
Ken Ledeca.
Edwin Cortium, my grandfather, excuse me. Jan Haney, ex-wife.
My dad, Paul.
Chapin Clark.
Moan Ali Schmerken. Dad Miles Willard. Thanks, angels.
Candy Cole.
Bud Olson.
Dave Kent, Louise Adams.
Margaret Ruth Udella.
Husband Robert, brother Don. Best dog friend ever, Mushy. Mother, father, grandpa, grandma.
Janet Tone Brown.
Ann S., mom. Charles S., daddy.
Carol.
Job Sanders, Margaret Wade, Dot Lankins.
Carl and Ann Blades.
Mabel Flager.
Joyce Waterman Roberts.
George and Anna Adams, Carl Nelson.
Mark Holmes, my mom's dad.
Paul and Mag Junkins, Nisko's parents. Edward Junkins, Nisko's brother. Marilyn Junkins, Nisko's wife.
Alan Leibowitz. Donald Rink.
Lance, Deb.
Stu Adler.
Deb Rousseau, mom, dad, Norma.
Albert Simson. Vanjie Shaw. Marge Howard.
Allison King, Deb Carson.
George Fulton. Friendly the Rooster.
Neem Carly Baba, Laverne Shorty Carlisle, Maud Reliance Carlisle, David Earl Burgess.
Emmett N. Britton, Rebecca B. Britton,
Henry Mayer, Alberta McDowell, Candy Cole.
Michael Oleland, Helen Irene Howe, Roger Degenhart, Miss Hedda,
Ruth Cressini, Leela Anslis.
Eleanor and A.C. Wilfong, Arlen Craig,
Shirley Nell Dora.
Will R. Clack, Rito Clack, Herman Scott, Nancy York,
Eunice Redmond, Jessie Neal, Holly Marie.
Black Star, Comanche Holy Woman, Jane, a simple living philanthropist, Marie Boaworth, loving, nonviolent leader of peace vigils.
Elizabeth Wyckoff, Avalon Hearts.
Saint Joseph,
Charles Fries, Geraldine Fries, Wilnia Barber, Gerhard Walker, Jean Reiser, Telly Marthia,
Kent Berglund,
James Luther Adams, Dorothy Alden Davis, Clinton Lee Scott, Hannah Arendt.
Catherine Wagner,
Ed and Phyllis Pera, Ruthie Manley, Shalto Fay, Jean Flink, Herb Matthews.
Estelle Singleton, Mary Powers, Jim Finney,
Ed and Phyllis Pera, Jean Flink and Herb Matthews, Ruthie Manley.
Robbie, Grandma and Grandpa Hammond, Grandma and Grandpa Eckert, Barb, John, Jake, Ginger.
Danny Starnberg, Pacelli.
My dad, Mark Wixman, my Grandma Pat, my pa, Jim Larry, my Ginger Cat,
Kurt Weinberg.
Sheila McCauley,
My mom, Helen Hammond. My dad, Herb Hammond. My mom-in-law, Nancy Eckert. My dad-in-law, Phil Eckert. My cousin, Dick Schramm. My cousin, Tom Hammond. All my wonderful animal friends, especially Karma Jane.
Marie Lesher,
My sister-in-law, Michelle Eckert. My father, Philip Eckert. My mother, Nancy Eckert. My father-in-law, Herb Hammond. My mother-in-law, Helen Hammond. And all of my lost furry friends.
my cat, Ego,
Marguerite Oliver, Dana Miller, Francis Church, Replogle, Rachel Wing Bell, Phil Edwards Church.
Father Ronald Burke, Friar, Bart Pearson,
Clint Hovis, Bob King, Zona Hovis, Lee Corey, Ann Cogswell, Lee Hovis, Ben Music.
Stuart Mulford,
Louis Netzer,
Catherine McKee Gauthier, John Lewis Gauthier, Louis Leon Gauthier,
Sarah Bowler,
Michael Vance Hansen, Penny Buff, Stevie Gilmer, John Fisher,
Richard Grayson, Lois Grayson, John Grayson, Hazel Grayson, Lucette Kepner, Paul Kepner.
Grandpa H, Grandma H, Grandpa B, Jack, Buffy, Cornflakes, Grandpa C, Grandma Lola,
Gloria Simon, sister, Mildred, choir mother.
David Browder, Ruth Browder, Eva Hagen Blackwell, Eva Tolles Motzkus, Joseph Netzer, Betja Netzer, Paul Motzkus, Evelyn McConnelly.
Leon Powell, John Powell, Jim V. Powell, Sonny's family, Richard Dioncio Santana.
Mary Ann.
My mom, Dorothy Etchison, 1921 to 1918.
Dawn Newby, Laura Brown.
Mary Ann Mitchell, Southie, Grandma Doris Miller, Wendell Smith.
Parents, Fleta and Herbert Boyd. Grandparents, Norman and Mary Boyd.
Grandpa Wendell Smith, Grandpa Herbert Boyd, Grandma Fleta Boyd, Auntie Mary Ann Mitchell.
Ivan.
Nora and Wayne David.
Sarah.
Velma Eichner.
Edwin Philip, Adelaide Philip.
Rose Hedlund Burnside.
Teacher Hazel, Baby Mikey, Alan, Granny Maud, Mom, Dad, Dear Rudy, and Pearl.
Joseph Grace, my husband, passed away July 1st. Ruth Perry, Bill Perry, Jean Sorensen.
Lorraine Gray.
Daisy Wood, Harry Wood.
Bill Jensen.
Fred Rogers.
Vi and Delma Marcini, Margaret and Fred Ressener, Mary Albert, Natalie.
Connie McGraw.
Alexander Hyland, Julius Rosenthal, Mike Walrath.
William Kay, Tina Lockridge.
Violet Oakes.
Grandpa Claude, Nana Olson, Papa Olson, Great Grandma Crenshaw, Aunt Bev, Anya, Tyler, Vera.
Bert Lockhead, Helen Lockhead, Shirley Hoke.
Judy Jarrett, Grace, Dr. Spence, Clark, Maggie, Grandma, Aunt Sweetie, Luke, brother.
Ron Phillips, Bob Phillips.
Malcolm Archibald, Mrs. Petroni.
Beloved pets, of which there are too many to mention. David Shantz,
Helen Shantz,
Clement Shantz,
Seth Barron,
Nella Barron,
Stephen Miller,
Wilma Lindsay, Ursula Hartog Van Leer.